Today I've brought back Reality Check from the dead because 2020 just cannot give us a break. I'm filming to protect my identity and that of the show from a nondescript park in a nondescript town somewhere in America. Welcome to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Cut that. Just cut that. This month's disaster wheel is very confusing, but what aren't are the effects. On Monday, May 25th, George Floyd was killed while being subdued by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin and 3 other responding officers. The police department released a report attributing his death to pre-existing conditions. All of that was misleading. The truth that came to light from a video that came out that week was a little different than what the police had reported. So let's redo it. On Monday, May 25th, George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in broad daylight in the streets of Minneapolis. Chauvin kneeled on his neck for almost 9 minutes, continuing to do so for 3 of those minutes while he was unconscious. He was then dragged unresponsive into an ambulance where at the hospital he was pronounced dead that night. Because I took so long to make this video, I have the ability of hindsight. Just today, the Minnesota Attorney General announced that the third-degree murder charge on Derek Chauvin, which wasn't handed down until after the worst night of rioting, was just changed to a second-degree murder charge. And the 3 other officers involved have all been charged with aiding and abetting murder. Going back a little, the major story around all of this is the protests and the riots. Unfortunately, a lot of small businesses and private property has been destroyed in major cities across the U.S., including Chicago, Minneapolis, and my home base of Denver. The first night of these protests were shocking. I was up all night refreshing my Twitter, watching my feed, and looking for developments as to what was happening in Minneapolis and Denver. I couldn't sleep because I was so mad over what was happening to the protesters and how the police were treating them. I was shaking when I watched the police flee the 3rd precinct in Minneapolis as protesters and rioters screamed and threw bottles at them. The next day I went down to the Colorado State Capitol building to have a look. I wanted to put myself in that position and see what it was like. Here were my thoughts. So I'm sitting here now at the steps of the Colorado State Capitol building, the scene of what was not only hours ago a large-scale protest and riot for mainly focused around the unfair killing of George Floyd. After a sleepless night of keeping my eye on the news, it is very surreal to be here. Of course, I've been to this place many times before, but in this context, it almost feels alien. It is about 7:30 in the morning. Most of the cleanup's done. There's not much evidence of what happened last night besides the amount of people cleaning up and the amount of people here covering it. There is a large news presence. There is a large security presence still. Not to the degree where it's suffocating, but you can definitely tell compared to our normal day, it is heightened. The images of what happened last night and the video footage just transposed over what I'm seeing right now is beyond surreal. There's still people around just doing their daily thing, but that heightened sense of caution or almost irritability, just that heightened anxiety in the air, I think is a proper term to look for. Since I recorded at the Capitol building, I walked around and saw the barricades in the center park. The only other thing besides that stood out to me was on what I believe to be, yes, the Colorado Judicial Center building. On one of the corners was spray paint 1312, which is, of course, reference to ACAB. As of recently, the protests have remained pretty peaceful here in Denver the last 2 nights. This has led to relaxing in the very strict curfew that we've had. In my opinion, this is a direct result of riot police choosing not to engage the protesters either of these nights like they have done in the past. These protests and riots all started after the video of George Floyd's death and have raged in cities like Minneapolis, Louisville, and LA, and a lot of targets have been on the journalists.
Hi, so this is Molly Hennessy-Fisk with the LA Times, and I just wanted to get this on the record that I was just at the 5th Precinct with a group of media. There was at least a dozen of us there, TV, still photo, and print. I had my notebook in my hand when the Minnesota State Patrol was advancing on protesters and us. We identified ourselves as press, and they fired tear gas canisters on us at point-blank range.
This was exemplified in Washington, D.C. a couple of days ago when police charged a group of protesters and assaulted two journalists from Australia that were in the way.
We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again. This is exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. We're just staying safely.
Oh.
Whoa. Oh.
Amelia, can you hear us?
Amelia, are you okay? Or your cameraman?
In Minneapolis, a strict curfew has been taken to an extreme with National Guard patrolling the streets. In this video, you can see a patrol of police firing some sort of gas at a group on their front porch.
Oh, there's more. Look at this. They just keep coming.
Oh, go inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in.
There is so much going on that nobody could capture it all, especially not me. Follow my Twitter where I'll be posting as many updates as I can, retweeting all the stories that I catch along the way to keep yourself updated. Associated with this have been President Trump's response and lack thereof. Luckily, most of his ire has been focused towards social media platforms, especially Twitter, who placed a notice under 2 of Trump's tweets about mail-in ballots being more fraudulent. The notice takes people to a page that highlights the facts about mail-in ballots as well as why they're not proven to be drastically more fraudulent. For me, I'm lucky to live in a state that has automatic mail-in ballots, of which I've filled out both times I've been able to. And I think this is going to be very useful in November when we have our general elections, where we might see a possible resurgence of the coronavirus. Unfortunately, Trump does not break his character type very often, and in tweets about the protests and riots, they included racial undertones, including calling those who participated thugs. This tweet and the same tweet made by the White House were both claimed by Twitter for glorifying violence because of the line, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." Twitter cited that this tweet not only incites violence, but it has been used in the past in the South during the Civil Rights era by those in local and city offices. And lastly, I want to remind you that this is my show, a news commentary show, and this is my commentary. Black Lives Matter, and they're under threat. There is an issue with police accountability, and a problem with the police training, and a problem with the militarization of police. Where this started was justice for George Floyd, and in my opinion, we've reached that, and it's underway. But that's not it. There are still countless deaths at the hands of police across America that still walk free, that need justice. There is still so much need for police reform in America that we cannot stop fighting. Make sure to support organizations that support African American communities and protesters' rights. Make sure to educate yourself in the issues that other Americans face, and do your best to help. Below have links and resources for you to donate and learn some more. I've also linked all the sources for all the news. I want to get better at that. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video. This really isn't a normal video. Thank you to all the coverage of journalists around the US that are enduring hell out there. And thank you to all those on Twitter that have provided me very useful information and have allowed me to access all the videos and all the news sources that you've been able to see here today. And lastly, thank you to all the people that are supporting. Not just me, I don't really care about the support right now, I care about the movement support. There is much need for support there. If you need a little bit of escapism, I'll be putting out some more GeoGuessr videos here soon. and hopefully I never have to make a video like this ever again.